Joined in studio now by Bills team reporter Maddy Glab for what else? The Maddy Awards, which are presented by Energy Mark, the official energy supplier to the Buffalo Bills. So after a 1-week hiatus for the Maddies, they have returned in full force.
And returned with 48 points on the scoreboard,
Sure.
the highest point total for the Buffalo Bills yet this season. But who knows? Maybe we got a 50 burger in store for us in the final
Should have had
3
one
weeks.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Should have had one yesterday.
Should have had one yesterday.
End of the first half, there should have been points on the board.
But yeah, that's
Not that we're complaining. But
no, not at all. But it's funny in those games like that where you think, wow, it could have been even better, right? There's so many things that happen in a football game. We were talking just now the play that really kept the Lions in it was the long touchdown pass because they scored quickly, and it proved that they could. And then it turned it back on the Bills. They had to do some different things offensively. Had to kind of keep their foot on the gas late in that game. So there was a lot going on in that. But yeah, I mean, this offense. It's rare that you get a team saying, "Listen, we got to get the ball back. We're gonna
onside kick with 12 minutes left.
With 12 minutes left, and we got to tell you to do it. We don't care. We got to do it. That's big. That's big.
And speaking of that, the first award is the MVP award, and one of the main reasons why teams are onside kicking with 12 minutes left
is because they have Josh Allen as their quarterback. I'm going to continue to label him as the MVP after every impressive performance because he deserves it. He's the favorite with the amount of games that he's put on display this season, showcasing why he deserves that award. Last night, it was 4 total touchdowns, a 122 passer rating, 362 passing yards. He had multiple plays that few quarterbacks can make. It was the chest pass. It was the multiple runs for first downs. It was the 64-yard pass over to Keon Coleman. Josh Allen now has 14 total touchdowns, no interceptions, and no sacks in the last 3 games. There were people on national television this morning saying that they were a little surprised by Allen's performance this year. I am not surprised at all by our quarterback because he's made strides every single year to improve. It was the completion percentage early on in his career. Then it was starting to understand NFL defenses. Then it was not playing hero ball as much. This year, it's been about cutting down on the interceptions and only turning into a hero when he needs to, and also finding new chemistry with new players on his team.
Yeah, I think it was the impressive thing to me, and we talked about it last night in the postgame live, Maddie, about 9 guys catching a pass. Ray Davis catching this pass going in, Ty Johnson making the plays that he made, Mac Hollins making the plays that he made. I mean, go down the list. Knox, Kincaid, Cook, all 3 running backs. And of course, the leading receiver was Shakir with 6 catches or something like that. It was, that kind of play. His ability to spread it around and have all these guys contribute when they're needed. I mean, a lot of times when you forget about a guy and you go back to him, he's like not ready because he's like, he's down or whatever. When these guys are called on, every single guy has stepped up to the plate and been ready, even if it's been a little bit of a drought. Amari Cooper got 0 targets.
Yeah. But that brings us to our next award,
Yep.
the Playmaker Award. He's one of those guys.
The playmaker, it's going to a running back, Ty Johnson, because he was a playmaker against the Lions. He finished as the leading receiver, 114 yards. Josh Allen called him a playmaker and not a running back because that is what he is. Johnson added a spark to the offense in last night's game. He has a rock star vibe. It's the long hair, it's the tattoos, the piercings. Well, he played like a rock star against the Lions. He adds pop to this offense. He's got some bursts, some power, and is a quick guy on the ground. And when he catches passes, he was drafted by Detroit in the 6th round of the 2019 draft, and I loved that the Bills showcased him on offense last night.
Yeah, performance. And you got to credit the play calling here, and I know we'll get to that in a little bit, but they had a good game plan to go against that Lions base defense, and it worked to perfection. All right, Glue Guy is the next award.
The glue guy, it's our head coach, Sean McDermott. You can't do it without Coach McDermott. This was a team who last week had Thursday's practice canceled due to 38 inches of snow. They just had one real practice in preparation for going up against the best offense in the NFL. He got the team ready, even if it was only one practice, even if they had to do meetings over Zoom on Thursday. Sean McDermott now has 5 straight seasons of at least 11 wins. He's only the 5th coach to ever do so in NFL history. This is the guy that holds it together. This is the guy that gets the best out of the players on this team.
Yeah, we were talking about, the atmosphere that he's created here in Buffalo. It's become a little bit more well-known this year with guys who, and Brownie has harped on it since the beginning of his tenure here, they really seem to get the most out of their players. We saw it in his very first season as head coach when he took a drought roster, traded away some of the better players on that roster, and then went to the playoffs with what was left. Phenomenal job of coaching, and he continues to be that guy. Guys like Mac Hollins, Ty Johnson, guys they're getting the most out of where a lot of people, they're just afterthought. Mac Hollins, throwaway guys who's been on 4 teams and looking for a spot. Just seems to get the most out of every roster that he's been given and maximize it, and to the tune of 11 wins for 5 straight years. Yeah. It's rarefied air.
Coming off a substandard performance defensively last week, people were concerned, how are they going to play against this Lions team that nobody seems to beat, ripping off 11 wins in a row. And with 1.5 practices, the guy gets, the best performance out of his defensive line all season long because he knows he and his staff know how to course correct their team. All right, Under Pressure Award.
Speaking of course correcting, under pressure, defensive tackle Ed Oliver had Jared Goff under pressure all game. He finishes with 10 quarterback pressures, and this was a defensive line who came off of a lackluster performance against the Rams. They were charged with saying, you guys need to have more urgency. That's what we heard from the coaching staff all week. Well, they did have quite a bit of urgency against the Lions. Oliver was all over the place, forcing Goff to make quick decisions and making Goff try to find different players to go to all over the field. It was great to see what the defensive line did. Ed Oliver even dropped into coverage a couple times.
Yeah, no question about it. The defensive front turned it up a notch against the Lions, and I think, what happened to them the week before in L.A., I think they felt like they didn't want to be that team.
Their pride was wounded.
Yeah, I think they didn't want to be those, have those things said about them, and Ed is that kind of player. He turned it up a notch. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Rousseau was very good in this game. Vaughn was good. And I thought early on, Bob Babich brought pressure off when Christian Benford got his sack off the corner on a condensed formation. Was a brilliant play call. Goff did not expect it, and it caught him. And they got him for a loss. So being able to go out there and get off to the start they did with Ty Johnson catching the balls that you mentioned, and then the defense getting a 3-and-out on the first drive of the game, huge day for the Bills defense.
Which brings us to the Masterful Award.
Masterful. Our offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, was masterful in his game planning against the Lions. 48 total points, a season high by this offense. And he deserves so much credit for this creative game plan. We've got a running back in Ty Johnson who finishes as the leading receiver and a running back in James Cook who finishes as the leading rusher. They're the first running back duo to have over 100 yards since 2012. 9 different players caught a pass in this one, and the offense at this point in the season, they just seem like they're hitting their groove. They're comfortable with each other. I think a lot of that is because of our quarterback, Josh Allen, and our offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, dialing up the right things, having a good feel and an understanding for here's what works and here's what our guys like. It's the first time since 1970 that the Bills have had at least 5 touchdowns, no giveaways, no sacks, and 3 straight games. The first team to do it since 1970.
Yeah, and I mean, he just saw the matchup advantage with running backs on linebackers and safeties and tight ends on linebackers and safeties. And you look up at the end of the game, Ty Johnson, 5 for 114, Cook is 1 for 28. And then you have Ray Davis with 2 catches, including the 5-yard touchdown reception. And then Kincaid and Knox combined for 6 for 95 yards. I mean, that's where the mismatch was, and they exploited it. And for some inexplicable reason, Aaron Glenn never changed for about 3 quarters. It was stunning to me that he said, no, I'm going to keep playing base defense. Here we go.
Yeah,
I mean, they played a little nickel, but not a lot.
I'll say this, too. This is one of the few games I've seen where the Bills looked like the team that had the perfect play design, the misdirection, small, short pass, misdirection, run play, where the sweep end around where Cook would take the handoff 3 steps hard left and then pull back to the right around behind Deion Dawkins.
Oh, yeah, that counterplay.
The counterplay was really sharp. Just the misdirection, the ball handling, the shovel pass to Shakir, all those little nuanced plays that we don't see very often from this team. Man, what a timely game to pull them out, and they were executed perfectly. So they looked like a really smart offense in this game. Certainly Josh is gifted beyond belief, and they got guys coming through making catches and stuff. But man, oh man, there were a lot of times when play selections, when they needed a first down or whatever, where they just looked smarter than the Lions did. Their play selection was perfect for the defense called. And you got to give Joe Brady credit for that.
We move ahead to momentum shifter.
There were 2 big plays on defense and on special teams as well. 2 total plays that really, I think, impacted this game and were momentum shifters. First, it's our cornerback Christian Benford, who forces a fumble in the 3rd quarter of this game. The Bills had the 28-14 lead at this point, but the offense had just punted. So the Detroit Lions are on the field moving the ball, and Benford forces a fumble, which Matt Milano recovers. Takeaways I thought were going to be so important in this game because it was the best offense in the NFL going up against the 2nd best offense in the NFL. I thought if a team could force a takeaway and take advantage of it, that might be a big part of this one. And it was, because the Bills then score off of that takeaway, extending the lead 35-14. And then it was the Lions trying for that onside kick. They were down 6 with just 12 seconds left to go. And our nickel cornerback, Taron Johnson, was able to grab the football. He was at the bottom of the pile for what seems like forever. We heard from him in the locker room after the game, and he said, I was being pushed, I was being pulled, there were people poking me in areas that I shouldn't be poked in.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot imagine what it feels like to be at the bottom of a pile for that long as you're grabbing bodies off as people are trying to tug the football away. Very impressive by Taron Johnson to grab that football and hold it for that long. 2 big plays that really impacted the game when the defense was down 3 starters.
And as you can see on that replay there, and I gave credit to Terrell Bernard on this yesterday on the broadcast, the ball comes loose from Taron. It's coming loose, it's coming out, and Terrell Bernard pushes it back into Taron Johnson's stomach so he can secure the ball at the bottom of the pile. It was really a heads-up play.
I've said it a lot. Satan himself lives at the bottom of an NFL pile.
Yeah. Oh, you're getting violated multiple times down there.
It's hell on earth under there, and kudos to Taron for being able to get out of there. And I'll say this too: when you're on top, and I've been there. Taron's teammates you need to peel the other guys off because the ball could change hands 3 times down there. You got to start pulling those guys off. And what happens is you see it a lot. You start pulling guys off that pile, and then they get frustrated and they start, it gets chippy. But you got to do it. You got to get your guy the ball down there.
That pile existed for way too long.
It was, and the officials, everybody was standing around looking at it. You can't let that happen as a teammate of the guy you think's got the ball. You got to peel those guys off and face the consequences.
All right, so we finish with the Best Moment Award.
The best moment was in the locker room after the game. Sean McDermott is giving his post-game victory speech, and he's, congratulating the players on, hey, you guys did this with 1 real practice. I'm so proud of you. And the team goes wild, and they start to realize, hey, we just put up 48 points, a season high with 1 practice. Maybe we're on to something here. Maybe we just need to have 1 practice a week. through the rest of the
Found the
regular
formula.
season. We found the winning formula. McDermott then follows it up with saying, hey, we might have two-a-days this week. And then the team goes, whoa, 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 whoa. What are you talking about, sir? I thought that was hilarious. Just some funny moments from this team throughout the season, and that was one of them.
Yeah, and that's the same locker room where 2 years ago on Thanksgiving, they win that game by the skin of their teeth, 28-25, and that's where Coach gave a big fist bump. Like he was like to himself, like big fist pump kind of thing. How about them Bills and kind of thing. It was really fired up. Locker room was a much different demeanor, but another victory fortunately for them. I don't know. It was funny. There's no doubt about it. It was definitely funny. Like you got to give the players credit for trying to lobby for it, but that's just flat out never happened.
But that's the thing too. Sean McDermott sat down in his post-game presser and said, one practice, he goes, we might have to double it up this week to make up for it. But players, I would have been the exact same way. Well, let's do that every week. Hey, it works.
Brilliant.
It's
a brilliant
brilliant
approach. And then on top, put the cherry on top. It was a scoreagami yesterday.
Yes.
48-42, a unique score. I think the 1,090th unique score in NFL history. There has never been a 48-42 final in an NFL game. So that was kind of cool. It was a little bonus there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I think too much of scoreagami, but it's kind of cool.
No, it's cool.
You get it.
We're football weirdos over here.
Right.
That's good.
That's very true. Maddy, thanks as always for the awards. We hope to see you next week after another victory here on Monday.